everyone, it's Lara Janzen with Lara Janzen Photography, and I wanted to introduce a florist friend of mine, Heidi, from Frankies Flowers, because I got a bouquet of flowers on Mother's Day that frankly kind of made me sad. And it was because it was just a store-bought one. And I think because I've had a few floral arrangements from Heidi before and I've taken some classes with her, she makes these beautiful classes on floral arrangements, I realize with a different eye now that her bouquets are just so much more beautiful and artistic than a store-bought one. And then there's other reasons why her floral arrangements last longer and just have so much whim and whimsy that I thought it'd be fun if she would show us all how she makes the bouquets and why it makes a difference to get one from her or another florist compared to the store-bought ones. So without further ado, here's Heidi.
All right, I bought myself a beautiful bouquet from the grocery store. Here it is. You can see that it's very jam-packed, full of stuff. This is a $45 bouquet. And there's a lot of stuff in here, but there's some things that I can't even see that's inside. There's some hydrangea in there. There's a bunch of alstroemeria in there. It's all so squished you can't even tell what all this beautiful stuff that you paid for, you can't even see it. So I'm just gonna open this up and see what we actually have in here. So it's got one of those little flower packets, which definitely use it. I've been doing some science experiments with that and it does make a big difference, yeah. It feeds the flower sugar, and then it also has a little bit of some sort of bleach in it that kills off bacteria to keep your water clear and to keep bacteria down. All right, so we've got lots of leaves in here too. You can see there's a lot of debris that I would normally have taken off before I give this to the customer. So all this stuff. My lilies here that they've given us have the pollen on it. Most florists would remove that because it stains everything it touches. It will stain even like surfaces that you don't think are stainable. And it will stain any clothes. It makes the flower die faster too. And look at all this. This is so nice. You got some dyeing stuff in here. And you got some dying roses. I'm going to show you how to take all of these apart and clean it up so we can make a pretty bouquet. All right, so I'm going to show you how to process these to get them ready and prepped. Basically, I'm going to take all my little ugly dead things off. I'm going to take my leaves off. And when you take your leaves off of your flowers, it allows the stem to stop putting energy into the leaves and just putting it into keeping your flowers alive for longer. So that's a really important step. And it also makes it so that it's much easier to make the bouquet while you're holding it if all the leaves are gone. So I'm just basically just cleaning all the leaves. This alstroemeria has all these little ugly leaves. These ones you have to be careful because sometimes when you pull them, it takes the flower off. So these ones are on the top. I kind of pinch it with my fingernail because if I just pull these ones, it'll pull the flower right off. Because the grocery store does not always do a good job of keeping good high quality things. Sometimes you're just gonna have to sacrifice it. That's what you get when you buy stuff from the grocery store. So when you're paying a florist, they're doing all this work. Before you even see it, you don't even know that they're probably getting better quality things in the grocery store. But at the same time, we still have to deal with these little, dead, broken flowers. And we just clean it up so you don't even know that it ever was there. This has a little ugly petal here. So I'm gonna take, these are called guard petals, and they're protecting the nice petals from within. This rose from the grocery store I can tell is old. It's probably been sitting in a cooler for a while. Likely it's never gonna open. It's probably always gonna stay closed. That's something that is common with grocery store flowers. Gases from fruits and vegetables and dying flowers. It puts out this gas and it makes it so that the flowers around it decompose faster. And it also makes it so that roses won't ever open. And most people don't want a rose that looks like that. They want it to be at that beautiful, full, open, and you'll notice a lot of grocery store flowers don't do that. And then I'll do that with the rest of my roses. My chrysanthemums, you'll want to pluck off some of the little ones, and then you could also make this into 2 different stems if you wanted. I'm gonna leave it long for now, but if you made it into 2 stems, you'd cut it probably here and then here. So now you have 2 different stems to work from. I'm gonna leave it like that for now till I know how short I want it. So now I've got all of my flowers and greens cleaned and prepped. I've got all the extra leaves off and all the little dead little buds. And I'm gonna start off with my greenery. It's gonna be my base. I don't love the greenery that they give you at all. This is nothing I would ever purchase for my customers, but we're gonna make it work. So I'm gonna start, what I usually do is I make a grid with my greens first. So I just kind of use my hand as the base, and I'm just placing them in my hand around my fingers. I like my bouquets to kind of go hang over a vase, and so that's what this is, a really nice technique to allow things to go, instead of standing straight up and down, it'll allow it to kind of hang over your vase like that. Just kind of continuously making a grid in here. They didn't give me a lot of greens to work with either. I probably would have done a little bit more and had a little bit different variety, but oh well, I'm gonna stop complaining about it. Okay, my next one I'm gonna play with is mums, my daisies. So I cut this one in half, like I was telling you. So now I have 2 stems. I'm gonna save this one for later because he's kind of short. And so I can put this one up here, gives it a little bit of height. I'm gonna leave this one how he is. This one just gonna kind of go on the other side. One thing when I make my own personal bouquets, I like to go in 3s, and I like to have 3 of the same color of roses and things like that if I'm going to. For them, they give us 4 roses. That's something I would personally never do. I think that's against math. And they use 2 roses of one color and 1 of each of another color, which I do not like that. But still, we're gonna do a good job with this. It's gonna be awesome. So now I'm doing my spray roses. I like to use things that have multiple stems on it in the beginning because it allows a little bit more of a grid. If I do one color on one area, then I usually go on another area. Sometimes it's nice to group colors together though. You get to kind of make up your mind on how you want to do that. Okay, I have some filler. They only gave me 2. So I'm kind of gonna do the same thing, go on one side here, and then do another one on the other side. The thing that you want with your bouquet, your flowers, is you want everything to have its own little spotlight in the world. You don't want it to be necessarily covered up by another one. It's nice if you can layer things and have things kind of umbrella-ing other things to give it dimension, but you don't want it completely hiding it. So that's what I wasn't loving about this bouquet, is I could see there was some things in here that were just completely hidden. So I put my Ultramarry in here. I have 3. I put them to make a triangle because I like triangles with design. That's why I don't like to have 2 of things. And then my lily, you can see I took the stamens off of them. I'm gonna put him right in the middle. He's gonna be a focal point because he's the biggest flower, and there, now he's a little more focal. And then this one has some stems that'll make a little help with my grid. Little spot here that's missing color. All right, and I got a couple more of those. I'm gonna go in 3s. So do one over here.
Yep.
And one over here. Okay, when you're making these, flowers will start to push into your palm. You kind of continuously pull things out so that it's not just, you don't want it super tight. That's gonna naturally happen. Let's see, we'll go maybe right here for my hydrangea. I always put my flowers inside. I'm weaving it in. I'm not placing it on the outside. The reason why is I'm trying to create a grid. That's not a grid. So I'm gonna place it in here. Now I'm letting go and it stayed. Now it's just kind of, what do I want to do? All right, we'll go with my hypericum berries. And you know, when you're doing this, You play with it, see what looks better deep in and what looks better out. You definitely want dimension. You don't want everything to be at the same level. So sometimes you're like, oh, does it look good down there? Does it look good up there? No, I don't like that one down up there. So I'm gonna keep that one low, and I'll have other things come up higher for my airiness. These roses are not gonna be, they're gonna be different colors, so I gotta figure out how to put that in there. Okay, I've got yellow and yellow with my spray roses. So I'm gonna take this yellow rose and make a triangle. Sometimes you don't have to have everything be the same type to make a 3. Sometimes you can have things that are like the same color, make a 3. So you could do 2 of something and 1 of something else as long as it's like a third. Here we have another yellow. So let's see where I want this one. I think this one, I feel like I have a hole in the back. It's also surprising sometimes how much your flowers can really take a beating. Like you can see I'm really handling these pretty roughly and they're doing good. Ugh, that guy is so squished. That rose isn't gonna open. I can tell that they have kept that rose in the cooler much too long and he's just an old rose. All right, let's see what happens if I put, yeah, he's gonna have to go right there. So if you're looking at this, you're like, sometimes if you squint your eyes, you can see where a color is missing. Also looking in the mirror at things sometimes helps to see where it's missing. Taking photos of things, looking at it, you can see where it's missing. And sometimes you just have to step away and come back to it. So you can see there was a lot in that thing. Like I'm like having a hard time putting it all in here. There was a lot in that bouquet. So they missed an opportunity to show all the beautiful things they had in here. This is getting kind of tight in my hand. So when I'm all done with this, I'm going to loosen everything up so that it has its special place in the world. These things are fun. They add a little bit of whimsy. They've got things that add whimsy usually have thin stems. Really thick stems don't allow it to be whimsical and move. So you want your thinner stems that have movement, usually higher. And then we have a little bit of this, it's some sort of type of grass. It's not bear grass, I can't remember what this one's called, but it's a nice quality one. All right, I'm gonna cheat. Sometimes on greens, I allow them to not go right in the middle. Once I'm kind of near the end of my thing, I might use greens kind of as a collar. Okay, so I have this little short daisies. We wanna make sure that they still get in water. We wanna make sure that they're not so short that they look weird. So I'm gonna play with it and see if I can make it work. If not, then maybe you just put it in a little bud vase, you know, it gets a little separate place. But I think it's gonna work right here. And then I have a little bit of this kind of whimsical status filler flower. It's like you're sewing it into it. Another thing that's important that I didn't mention is you want all of your stems to have a nice clean cut on the bottom. If you just tear your stems off, it won't have a clean cut that is able to be sewn into it. And you will get really frustrated and want to just like throw out your flowers. So it's one of those things to keep your sanity is to give everything a nice clean cut. And another thing to keep your sanity is to make sure that you get all of those leaves and broken flowers taken off before you start this design. You can see my hand is taken up. I don't have time to keep messing with things and putting it down because I've got my hand taken. Okay, so now we have our basic thing. It's pretty much done, but I'm gonna take a little time to make sure that everything's not super squished into my hand. I'm gonna place things so that it looks like they're radiating from the center, like they would if they were growing naturally in your garden. Things don't cross and do weird things and come from like outer edges. Everything radiates from a center. So you want it to look like that because you want it to look like it could almost happen in your garden. So now I'm just making sure that I have everything pulled out the way I want it to, so that everything has its place in the world. That was my biggest issue with that last bouquet that we got from the grocery store, is it was so squished you couldn't see what you had. So one of the things that I find is the difference between an experienced florist and maybe non-experienced florist is you find their things are really squished if they're a little more less experienced. It is a hard thing to be comfortable with things poking out higher than, you know, all the same. I find go a little bit against your comfort level. Pull it out a little bit more than you feel like it's right. And you know, you can always push it back in, but that's what gives it dimension. That's what gives it movement. And really, to me, that's what's important. I want movement. I want it to shimmy. All right, now I'm gonna just go over with you about how to put it in your water. Ideally, you would want some nice warm water, not necessarily hot water, but warm water, because just like us, where our pores open up and allow moisture in, flowers are the same way. So if you want to hydrate your flowers, you want it to be a little bit warm, ideally. You also, the best way would be to do at an angle. First, let me see how about where I want this. You can always cut shorter. So I like to start long, and I almost always cut too long and then redo it. Because it's easier if some of your stems are kind of holding it in place by touching the bottom of your vase. So I'm cutting all of these a little bit at an angle. The reason for that is that if your stems do touch the bottom of your vase, if they're flat against the bottom of the vase, it makes it hard for them to accept water up. And also, if they're diagonal, it allows more surface area, so they're able to take more. You want to cut them right before you put them in water. And then you kind of shake it out a little bit. And once it's in the vase, you can rearrange things, but that you can see how it just like doing it in your hand made it pretty much ready to go in the vase. Ta-da!